Hello, welcome to the Light & Co podcast. I'm Dee and I'll be your host for the next 40 minutes or so. This is episode 7 and we're going to dive into the most complex, exquisitely confusing and yet potentially enlightening topic, and that is relationships. It's like, why on earth would we go there? Why on earth would we humans want to have relationships? So, you're going to hear things you won't hear from anywhere else, because I have under my belt 50 years of lived experience with relationships. 50 years. And my current marriage is 37 years strong and is still alive and kicking and still fulfills my soul to this day as we move forward. So from that platform, I'm going to be excavating the topic of relationships in a way that perhaps will open some doors to different possibilities that you didn't know existed. You see, as I say often, I'm one of those pioneers who's been out on this evolutionary edge for quite some time, forging and exploring and bringing into practice ways of being that support our soul's growth here on this earth in everyday life. I don't do fluff, right? We know that. It's lovely to be able to go on a retreat with your partner, sitting there looking into each other's eyes on this weekend, lovely retreat about relationship, breathing together, having a wonderful spa together, just that time together. It's a wonderful experience. But how do you take that connection? How do you take that energy and put it into your everyday life with the mortgage and the kids, or the rent and the car and the insurance and the parents-in-law and the soccer and the food and the emails and the early risings and the whatever else is going on in your life? How do you keep that flame of connection and truth and visibility and vulnerability and communion, of witnessing each other? How do you keep that alive when life gets in the way? So I'm here to tell you that's possible. It's a long ride to get here. And now I'm going to unpack all of that and come back to some fundamental, structural truths that we can all explore, because from here on in, we're now opening ourselves up, many of us, to this type of relationship. This is the one that will support our soul's growth. This is not the one that sees you sailing off into some, expensive cruise when you're 60. This is the one that keeps you alive and consistently building that communion every day. So how did I reach this? I don't know. It was like something that internally rose from me when I was 26. Because I was in my first marriage and I didn't have any other templates in a way other than my parents' marriage. And I had the white picket fence. You buy the house, you have the kids, you get them through school, and then off you go, and then they leave home, and then you have the grandchildren, and then you sail off into the sunset. I couldn't do that. Because back then, something was really, really rumbling, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't look ahead at the age of 26, 25, 26 and go, gee, the next 40 years is going to be fantastic. 40, 50, 60 years, I don't know. I can't do this. I can't do this in the way that society says that we do it. And I remember when I left my first husband, my mother said to me, because she was very, very frustrated, she thought that, right, we've got her in a box, she's good now, right, everything's going to be settled. He'll take care of her. And so when I left, she said to me, why can't you just settle? And I remember thinking, settle? Why would I settle? I don't settle. And I remember her saying to me, so what do you want in a partner? Okay, what do you want in a man? And even back then, I was able to list things that were important to me, because I was going through my own spiritual emergence. And so the things that were important to me were not the things that were important to your traditional marriage. And I remember her saying, there's nobody out there like that. Just learn to settle. So I spent the next 6 years on my own. And this is one of the keys that I think, because I can only speak from my own experience as to what's worked for me, but one of the keys is to be able to live with oneself fully and enjoy the company you keep in the quiet moments. And that's what I learned to do. I learned to like myself in the quiet moments. I learned not to need another. I learned not to buy that Hollywood movie line of, oh, you complete me. I learned to complete myself to the best of my ability. And yes, I had various suitors, but no, none of them could match that list that I was forming within my consciousness of, all right, if I'm going to be in relationship, I want that to be one that goes on and on and on and is dynamic and ever evolving, and that I'm not lost in it and I'm not compromised. In fact, I'm celebrated in it. I get to learn more about myself, remember more of myself in the presence of another than I could in my own company. So that was what happened. When I was 33, I met my now husband, Clive. And we met, and I'll say this now, so we have, I don't know, billions of dollars industry around personal development and all this sort of stuff. We fundamentally had nothing back then. You know, this is the early 80s. This is all very new. This is fresh. And I stumbled across this group of people that were starting to examine those energetic things that make we humans tick. So being curious and not being one to settle, I thought, oh, I'll dive in here, have a look. So I went to a relationship workshop, and part of that was creating the list. Well, I'd already started to formulate my list, so I was pretty clear about my list. And I had chosen, I'd said that I will be celibate now until the one who matches this list comes along. That was my vow to myself. So I'm matched with a man. He's got his list there. He's thought about it very carefully. And so we sit there and we exchange lists. And you know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you? Yeah, the lists were identical. And I could see in retrospect how we had been circling each other for some time and how everything had conspired for us to meet in that moment. And the recognition that we felt for each other, the magnetism that was there in the room, because everybody noticed it, was palpable. And I thought, aha, here he is. And I remember my mouth going dry. I remember feeling something I'd never felt before. And from that moment, I thought, wow, here we go. So yeah, that was 37 years ago. And if both of us are in a room together and we're to look at each other across the room, you'll feel that magnetism again. It's forever present. Because we've treasured it. We've excavated it. We've nearly lost it. We've stretched it so far that it nearly broke so many times. But now we know what it is. It's a level of communion and transparency and witnessing of two souls together who came to share their lives for something larger. Okay, that's big. So let's unpack that, because what I'm speaking about now are relationships that are starting to emerge. Because these are the sacred union relationships that will set the frequency and the tenor and the template, if you want to use that word, the sacred geometry for what is to come. Because we didn't have that roadmap before. So some of us have been forging it, have been laying it down, have been holding it in the field for now. That's what I'm talking about. And I'll put my hand up to say, yes, I'm one of those pioneers who've been involved in that process. And I want to bring it back to, how does that work in everyday life? What are the guidelines? Because each relationship is absolutely unique. And you've got to find that sweet spot that enables each party to be liberated, to be fully free, without compromise, and yet to choose to be with another. Because 1 and 1 equals 3 in these relationships. 1 being, there's this party who doesn't need the other. There's this party who's complete. And then there's this party who's complete. I can look after myself. He can look after himself. But when we choose to be together, we create something so much larger than 1 and 1 equals 2. We create a whole living entity, which is a partnership, which is here to contribute to the whole. And by both of us witnessing and listening to the other, we support the other to fly. Also within the context of mortgages and rents and children and businesses and emails and soccer and getting the right socks in the washing machine. All of that. So how do you do that? Okay. This is what has worked for us. First and foremost, there is no entitlement in relationship. Okay? Nobody has power or precedence over another. Just let that soak in. Because very often, and I'm not saying this in the context because there are some extremely violent examples of relationship out there. It's a very complicated world that we have now. I'm looking at what is the highest expression of human potential when two souls set each other free. And within that, there needs to be equality and balance. No power over, no manipulation. And women do manipulation and power over really easily without even knowing. Okay? Because we nag, we chip away. We belittle quietly by taking on more than we should, and because only we can do it, right? Part of the dynamics of a really healthy relationship, when we feel safe, is for we women to be able to surrender. We don't have to do it all. And if you're with a partner who refuses to do that, then you might want to reflect on your relationship again. Because it's all about the balance and the flow of equal input, that you two agree who's going to do what, so that everything flows and there's no resentment, there's cooperation, there's no compromise within the cycle of life. That's a really big task to take that on. And to do that, you need to know yourself really well. You need to be willing to go there, to go, what actually is non-negotiable for me within the context of my life, so that I can actually not be exhausted, not be resentful, be present within the relationship and actually enjoy my life. Be seen, be heard, be witnessed. And so there needs to be an equal division of jobs. Because if I'm not needy, then I need to be self-sufficient. And if he's not needy, then he needs to be self-sufficient. And these are really simple, fundamental things. It's like, women, don't buy his underwear. Don't buy his clothing. Don't take him shopping and analyse, pull his pants in the back to see whether that works or not. He didn't marry his mother. He's not 6. Okay? So men, learn how to cook. Learn how to vacuum. Learn how to use the washing machine. Learn how to iron and sew on a button. Be independent and self-sufficient, because that is highly, highly attractive. I didn't want a man who treated me as his mother, because that way I could never feel safe. Because the dynamics I'm talking about in terms of masculine and feminine, I am, a woman, right? So the dynamics that I'm speaking about is that my job is creative and my job is to receive. That is the energy of the feminine. It is about receiving. And the masculine is about protection and safety and structure. So by me surrendering to myself, he assumes that role of protector. And I'm not saying protector in the sense that he has to go out and earn all the money. No, I'm not talking about that. He protects the dynamics of the relationship. Within this, obviously, commitment, that big, big word, commitment, is vital. And it's firstly commitment to oneself, commitment to those values, those visions, those deep, deep, soulful whispers, commitment to those, that they are not trampled upon, that they're not ignored, that they're not rubbished, that there's time to express them, time to develop them, that your dreams are not stifled within that relationship, and vice versa. So to do that, we're going to have time. We're going to have to carve out time. Time as a priority. Time within the busyness of all your days. Because if you make this the foundational priority within your life, that it's this quality of relationship, then time, presence, being with each other is important. And it could just be, 10 minutes sitting on the back step, all right, having a cup of tea. It could be a quick coffee during the day. But you're fully present. Phones are off. And you're looking at each other. And you're listening. And you're hearing. And you're witnessing. And you're constantly coming back to that centre. Because days are busy. And you both go off and do your thing. But then you come back to that centre. And then you both go off and do your thing and you come back to that centre. And you feed that flame. And when I say it needs to be balanced, this is the really important part. Because most of the time it's not really balanced. We can't love somebody into wellness. Oh yeah, I know we're told that we can. But this is where the commitment comes. Unless your partner is willing to take 100% responsibility for their actions, their responses, their words, their projections, their judgments, their hurts, then it's not going to work. Yes, you can love them as much as you want to, but by giving and trying to fix them through your love, you are actually disabling them. So sometimes we need to step back and let them feel that which you've been trying to cover up with your balms and your words and your love. Let them feel. Perhaps they go and seek independent help that doesn't come from you. That would be good. But until they're willing to take responsibility, this type of relationship, this alchemical, ever expanding, ever progressing relationship is not going to happen. For me, marriage is about constant change within a safe container. So the safe container is created by a commitment, by communication, by 2 feet in, by joint vision, by finding that which inspires both of you to focus on together, by finding that beautiful sweet spot of that joint highest expression of both of you where you come together and go, wow, we're going to create this other entity by being together consciously so that we're both evolving, we're both vital, we're both well, and we're both excited about what we came here to do. Now, if you can be that after 37 years of marriage, it takes work. And where I come in, and this is when, if we're working in relationship, Clive and I often work with clients together. Because I'm not a man. He's not a woman. The lived experience of a man is different to that of a woman. It just is. But we as humans both have charges within our field that will enable our buttons to be pushed. And everywhere that our buttons are being pushed and we're being triggered is another glass screen or brick wall blocking intimacy and communion. Just being on the same page together. So when we actually see the relationship as the gift that it is, and we work it, we consciously work it. We consciously, like heat-seeking missiles, seek to find that thing that is creating separation between us and dissolve it, then we're onto something. And blame and nagging and resentment, dishonesty, withdrawal, silence, retreat, talking about each other behind our backs to somebody else are all part of that. So this is radical honesty between two souls in the context of everyday life. And that doesn't happen unless you actually commit to give it time. Time within every day. I'd say that would probably be the most important thing, is to keep. Because, when you live with somebody in such a level of intimacy, you can feel what's going on for them and they can feel what's going on for you. We know that. It's not rocket science. So when you can feel something there, without nagging, create the opportunity to sit down and just say, hey, what's up? What's up? I just want to listen. So one of the things I've had to do over the years, it's taken me a long time, and yes, he's a very patient man, is to learn to listen, to not jump in, to not complete his sentences. So that would be one really wise thing to take away from this. Women, learn to listen. Because usually we're the communicators. Learn to listen. Shut up and learn to listen without judgment. And men, speak up. Find your voice. Be present in your life. Be very clear about what's dear to you in your heart and what you came here to do. And seek a partner who sees that in you, who sees that strength of character, that deep sense of purpose, that patience. And this is where the cherishing comes in. Because when you cherish each other, you can't possess each other. These are the dynamics that are so clear in today's world. That level of entitlement, that level of I'm going to check him all the time. He checking her, she checking him. For most of my relationship, we've never texted each other at all. I trust him. He trusts me. Any level of doubt, any level of jealousy needs to be addressed and faced head on. Because it's just a reflection of everywhere where we don't feel safe within ourselves or love ourselves or feel less than compared to another. So women want to be cherished. We don't want to be criticised. We want to be held. We want to feel safe. In our flannelette pyjamas, no makeup, I don't care. Just as we are. Just as we are. In all our softness and our vulnerabilities, we just want to be held and we want to be cherished. Not fixed, not criticised, just witnessed and to be held. And to feel safe. That's speaking from a woman, and to feel free. That I can say what I need to, that I can go wherever I want to do. I can go to the other side of the world, away from him for 6 months, and that not be an issue. Because there's something larger at play here. The freedom to actually live our lives at the fullest expression, and yet within a partnership. Wow. That's big. Do we get it right all the time? No. But there's that kernel, there's that flame that keeps things going. So what we've created is a safe container for all of this alchemical dross, or this alchemical sort of process to happen. So all the dross can be burnt off, because sometimes it gets pretty hot and pretty fiery in there. When you're speaking your truth from a deep place, it gets pretty fiery in there. And the other has to be able to stand in the fire and not shrink back and hear it and receive it and not diminish themselves. That takes tremendous work and tremendous courage, but it's possible. The respect that you have for each other is the foundation of the trust and the willingness to witness and hold another soul to account so that they can flourish and be free. Paradoxically, relationships are all about liberty and freedom as well. As I said, it's complicated. So, if you'd like to know more about this, to see how all of this can be unpacked, all these dynamics, then email me. Because the work I do, and Clive as well when he comes in, what the work I specifically do with my instruments of light is to clear away the resistance. It's to clear away all those packets of stuck energy that keep us separate, that make us hurt and make us judge and make us fire out and make us retreat. If they could be cleared out and we could be present with each other from a place of response, not from a place of reaction, from a place of choice, what would we choose together? Each day afresh. What would that look like if there was no walls between us? What would that feel like? What would that do to your health? What would that do to the health of your heart? Intimacy is the ability to sit with another, be with another, and not shrink back, to be open, to be vulnerable, to give of one's deepest self to another to be witnessed. So whether that is in lovemaking, whether that is sitting on the back step having a cup of tea, however that shows itself, it's possible. There are so many other sort of day-to-day things that I could add here. I'll just throw one in quickly right now before we end. Women, when you're out driving together, Don't point out where the car parks are unless you're asked. Don't tell him how to drive unless you're invited. If you don't feel safe, if he's going too fast, you can speak up. Do not nag or watch over or critique. Allow him to look after you. Allow him to provide for you, to cook for you, to gift you, to see you, to treasure you, to cherish you. Because in the doing of that, you will receive yourself, and that is the greatest gift you can give yourself. So in the being of relationship, we get to gift ourselves to ourselves. That's when you know it's working. So if you're curious and you'd like to know more, because this is a very large topic, or you'd like to do some work with myself and with Clive, just email me, d@lightandco.earth. Details will be down below. And begin to see a new possibility in your life, whether you're in a relationship or not, because this is the way things are heading now. This is the next level, the next expression of what marriage looks like as we move towards these higher dimensions. It's exciting and it's time. Thank you for listening, and until next time, lots of love.